That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 38, for Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. Coming at you from the PETM Podcast Studio here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined, as always, by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, buddy?
Glad to be here. Glad for everyone to join us on what we continue to say is the fastest evolving, the fastest growing podcast on the internet, the PETM Racing Podcast. Woo! Welcome to the show.
That away. Well, let's start it off like we always started off, and what you're drinking. I'm not going to let you go first, because you've got a story behind what you're drinking today, Sherwin.
Yeah, mine's better than yours.
Yours is better than mine. I'm drinking the Sweetwater 420, just a common one that we bring onto the show. So why don't you go ahead with yours?
Delicious local product.
Because that thing looks super delicious.
Well, leftover from the weekend, sure enough, in the fridge is a gigantic Twisted Tea, who was the primary sponsor on Brian Scott's Richard Petty Motorsports number 44.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had to put the koozie on because I have to represent the podcast, but Twisted Tea may be a little bit behind on their advertisement.
Or that particular gas station ain't sold.
Or that particular gas station ain't sold enough, because there's a 9 on it, but we want to make sure we give Brian Scott his due and Richard Petty Motorsports their most up-to-date shout-out. So I'm drinking Twisted Tea. Cheers to Brian Scott and
why,
Richard Petty Motorsports.
And I was looking for the story here. You remember why you're drinking Twisted Tea, right?
I think we had another one of our moments in a gas station.
Well, what it was, if you remember, so this was the first time you and I went to Bristol together, and we went in. It didn't go into the track, but as we were walking around, we were searching for some beer, and they're selling beer by the case. You buy a case of beer for like $20.
Just clean a case of beer. Like in the box, just...
Yeah, the
would
whole
you
box.
like to walk into the race with a case of beer? Here's how you would do that. And it was the same prices at Walmart.
Right. And so you bought a case of beer, and then I walked over, and they were selling these 24-ounce grandes, as we used to call them, of every beer imaginable. And we picked up a couple Twisted Teas. We said, well, let's see what this is all about. And I believe ever since then, we've picked up the 24-ounce Twisted Tea at every race we've gone to.
Yeah, well, I think it started when we could get the tall boys, and that was cool. It fit in the cooler quite well. And then, the big guys, started showing up, and we're like, well, of course we got to have that. I mean, I don't even know where I'm going to – I might put it just in my scanner bag if my cooler doesn't fit it very well.
It's going to get
but
drank.
I'm having one of these. Like, us and Twisted Tea and the racetrack is now, like, sort of synonymous.
It's a thing. Maybe there'll be a sponsor.
It's just a thing. We do
Maybe
it.
There'll be a sponsor.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a couple cases sent to the house one day.
Well, I've got a surprise for you. I told you I had a surprise, and it's sort of a new tchotchke. We actually talked about...
I'm tired of waiting, to be honest with you.
We sort of talked about doing this, and I just went ahead and said, screw it, I'm going to do it. So here it is. It's the PETM Wall of Fame that I put together. So for those of you on Periscope there, I'll hold it up.
We're halfway in.
And
that's so cool.
We've what I've done is taken a picture. So everybody who sent us a picture of the PTM sticker, wherever it is, I've put your picture on our sort of Wall of Fame here, and I've put your handle on there. Now, embarrassingly, Ed Clark, the president of Atlanta Motor Speedway, I need to reprint his because I messed up and put an S instead of an A on the Ed Clark. It says Ed Klazerk or something.
Oh, that's funny.
Take a look. But yeah, it's about halfway filled up. So y'all get your sticker and put it on, and we will absolutely put you on the old PTM Wall of Fame. Let's
and we hope the Wall of Fame gets a lot bigger than it is now.
I got the small one so we could fill it out.
This is super cool.
We want to fill up the whole wall.
Podcast folks,
let's see if
our
we can
Periscope
see that.
folks, take a look here. This is where y'all are putting your stickers, and of course, the one we're currently most proud of is Ed Clark tweeting out with our sticker.
Put it right up here for everybody to see.
A little backdrop there.
Ed Clark, I think what happened was, so at the tweet up, we met Ed Clark's handler, whatever we'll call him. That's probably going to fall later and make a big old noise, but so be it. But we met his assistant or whatever we want to call him, and he said, why don't you give me a couple stickers? I'll take a picture with Ed Clark. We'd already met Ed Clark earlier that day. We didn't think to give him a sticker. And
well, that was at Sunday at the tweet up. It was the day before we met Ed, yeah.
Yeah. And so Sunday at the tweet up, he said, give us stickers. Sure enough, Ed goes on Twitter and posts this picture of him holding it up. It was real cool. But Kenny, yours is up there. I see Scott's up there. I see Darren's, and Drunk Brian France is on there.
That's Matt Manjack down here at the bottom.
Yep, Manjack, and then we have Matt Bishop with M Bishop Photos over there holding up his. And I'm going to try to get these on the website, too. That's just real cool to see. So that's the big tchotchke surprise, whatever we'll call it today.
Oh, that's cool.
I like it.
Thank y'all for sending pictures of where you put your sticker or that you got them. That we like that stuff a lot, obviously. So that's very cool.
Yeah. So let's move on to Atlanta. We've already kind of started talking about Atlanta, but I think starting with picks, I had Casey Kane, who finished. We use the term DFL, dead blank.
If it's
last,
not a good
finish,
it's DFL.
Yeah. So fill in the F for yourself, but. I'd say Casey Kane finished about DFL in Atlanta.
2 laps down is pretty much DFL.
Yeah, and Sherwin picked Kurt Busch, so I don't know where Kurt finished, but it had to be better than DFL.
I think it was 6th.
Not bad. So here's the interesting part. We're at this race, right? And me and Sherwin, and it's already been. If you're listening to the podcast, you already know Atlanta went 210 laps without a caution. It was a debris caution, wasn't even real caution, really.
Oh, it was BS too. I watched on television. It was an empty water bottle on the middle of the back stretch outside the groove by 4 or 5 yards.
Wow.
It was when the chunks of rubber that don't matter.
Yeah, they just needed it or whatever. So essentially, we go about 300 laps without a caution that was real, and up in the stands. And here's what happened: me and Sherwin are watching Casey Kane. We talked about this before the podcast started. Me and Sherwin
finished 4th. Sorry,
4th. Well done. Me and Sherwin are listening, or we're watching the track. We're listening over the headsets. We got the headsets where we can talk to each other on it and everything. And the guys are coming around the track. Casey keeps falling back, and we're following Casey the whole time. We're listening to Kevin Hamlin, his spotter. We're watching him on the track, and he's just going backwards, and it's just a tough day for Casey. And at one point, on top of all that, we don't have any cautions coming out. He can't make up any of these laps back, and we're just trying to find somebody else to watch. And ended up, I think we're talking to each other going, man, this race it's a bit tough to watch. It's not really all that much fun going on. And we come back after it's all said and done. Of course, had a decent finish and all that. We come back, and you see all the comments on Twitter, all the comments from the media. Everybody's saying, this is a throwback to the way it used to be. This was great. We even heard the drivers talking as we were leaving, doing their little post-race interviews, saying how awesome it was. Don't pave this track. I mean, everybody always says, don't pave the track. But I was surprised at that time hearing all that. And then you've gone back and actually watched it on TV, or watched at least most of it on TV now.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to fast forward through it to make sure I watched moments I knew in the race were key moments, like watch the we'll bring it up later, so it doesn't matter, but the cars were sliding around like crazy, which is awesome. The cars were losing upwards of 3 seconds a lap with age on the tires.
3 seconds not 3 seconds a lap.
Like they were slowing down 3 seconds across the age of the tire.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got you. 3 seconds a run.
Craziness. You know, like they were starting off running 29s, they end up running 33s before they pit, kind of thing.
Yep.
And so that was really cool. And what you saw was cars were pulling up to the car they're trying to pass, and they were just passing them.
So, like, faster car and better driver?
Yeah, the only reason that would keep a car behind another car is if he pulled in hot, entering the corner, and got boogered up loose, and then slowed down, and then, so he's got to mount a charge again for 2 more laps to get the momentum built back up. But Arrow was not impeding these guys from passing each other, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. The problem is at Atlanta, with the surface being so abrasive and the speeds being so fast, that if you go green for 210 laps, you're going to end up with 8 or 9 cars on the lead lap. We've seen that before when Arrow was still kind of in play in the early
we talked
stages
about on the last
of
podcast.
the COT.
Because
we talked about Kurt getting lost early. He was one of the only guys we've seen in the last 10 years to get lost early and stay lost the whole race. He was gone the whole race. And we didn't necessarily see that this time. It would have been a lot more interesting to see if, the Kansas thing, which is one of our segments later, so I don't want to dwell on it now, but it would have been interesting to see how the end played out if there was one more really fast car in play with some of the strategy. But The tires were huge. I mean, the first tire they pulled off Kevin Harvick's car, because he was the first guy to pit.
Mm-hmm.
He pitted on like lap 39. And the right front inside bead was shredded. Like an inch and a half of it was just fluff. Like,
shut up the right front
tire.
tire.
Pulled it off, and it was like, it was sticking out like that, like it needed a haircut. Yeah. Where are you at on that one, right front tire?
Yeah. I was trying to give him a shout out there. Yeah, that, and you said it in the show notes here that the cream rising to the top on the slick and the slimy racetrack, and Jimmy Johnson comes across. We got our first sort of taste at the new green white checker. Did they come across for the white? I can't remember now. If they did.
Got the white down the back.
Well, they got the stripe down the back, and then it immediately crashed right after that, or did they get the white?
I didn't get to
remember.
finish the end because I wanted to see the specifics.
Yeah.
Just to see what it looked like on the television. What I saw was the very last caution, which was not the very last caution, but the caution that
Newman caution
brought out the overtime, which is the Newman caution, blowing a right rear coming right across the start-finish. He blew it crossing the start-finish and then went through the dirt, and we didn't really see that because – we're looking on the other side of the track, still watching our guy who's 2 laps down and running 24th, which I don't know why we didn't switch sooner, but I think that shows our loyalty, which is fine. But, I mean, they slipped and slided around like crazy, but we couldn't see that on.
Yeah, we just weren't watching it. So, you said it to me earlier before the show started. If our guy's doing good, we're watching him, and we're watching him do all this stuff you're talking about, slip sliding around, passing guys when he's faster. When he's not, I mean, he's just junk in the back, and we're just sort of, playing in the dirt with our feet, I guess. But so be it. I still had a blast.
That's what I told somebody who was asking me about the race this week, and it's like, maybe I didn't necessarily enjoy watching the race from the perspective of being a fan of a particular race car.
Right.
But I loved being at the racetrack. I loved all of my experiences there. And we only go to 3, maybe 4 races a year. I get to watch the other 32, 33, 34, whatever it is on television and get to see all those things. And this package is not the only time it's going to run is at Atlanta. We'll get to see it again this week at Vegas, and it should be very similar.
Yep. Although they got the new pavement.
The surface is a little bit newer.
And a little bit faster
but it was
speeds,
06. I mean, we're looking at a 10-year-old surface.
06 already.
When they did the progressive banking.
Getting old.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we'll get to see it.
Yep. And I'm excited about that race. We have a new segment, or a segment that's maybe a one-timer segment. So at the Georgia Tech football games, you and I both have season tickets, had season tickets now 8 years, and went to all the games before then and blah, blah, blah through college. Well, one thing back in when I was little, and me and my dad would go to football games and baseball games and all kinds of stuff. When somebody did something weird or somebody, they threw a flag or something, he would always yell, "Cheaters!" at the top of his lungs, "Dirty players!" all that stuff. And everybody's looking at him like he's wacko. So
we get a hell of a reaction out of folks now at Georgia Tech football games.
Georgia Tech football games.
2-year-olds, and they use it.
An entire section now is yelling "cheaters" every time there's any sort of flag. It could be on us, and we're yelling it too premature. Done that a couple times. And the little girls, it's real funny because it'll be a touchdown, and she's yelling "cheaters" because she just knows it's us. So in the spirit of all that, this new segment's titled "Cheaters!" Cheater! That's about what it sounds like at the game, too. That's pretty good. We got 2 people to talk about. We got Matt Kenseth running around doing laps, just burning gas.
Man, it burns good.
It sure does.
I tell you what, he's got that new spotter, and so the media pundits are trying to pin some amount of blame on him for not demanding that his driver come to pit road, and I guess that's probably okay. But Jason Ratliff was arguing like a lawyer in the pits about whether or not the gas man putting the wrench on the spoiler was really that big of a deal, or whether it was a true violation of the rule. But needless to say, nobody was paying attention to the fact that Matt grabbed the black flag with the white cross on it, which means you ain't in the race no more, fella.
Yeah, you're just running around just burning gas.
You're just burning gas.
Getting in people's way.
And he burned gas for 2 laps.
He burned 3 miles of gas.
He was he was top 5 all day,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up back there with Casey by no doing of the driver.
Right. So I don't know. I listened to the Over the Wall race guys, old Cliff and Kathy.
Oh yeah,
and they were talking about it. That I thought it was a good idea. They said was why ain't they popping that stuff up on the digital dash? That's a good thing to throw up on there just to let the driver know, hey, red flag, yellow flag. Even when they throw the yellow, it goes out to them.
Oh man, but that's closed circuit versus open circuit.
It's true. How about this? If you got the black flag with the white cross in it, maybe just make an exception for that one so the driver knows what's going on.
Well,
I don't know what the crew chief's doing the whole time. I mean, he's arguing, but
I agree with you. I think most of the fault falls with Jason Ratliff.
Absolutely.
Spending too much time arguing and not paying attention to what was going on in the race. Spotter being new probably doesn't know when he's supposed to step in and say, hey, dude, you just got to pit.
Yeah.
Like, forget it.
We see that happen in baseball, right? So they call him safe at first, and the first baseman goes to argue with the ump, and meanwhile everybody's just rounding the bases, scoring runs.
Right.
Happened to the Braves in like 91, and we got 3 runs or something on it. Anyway.
Yeah, that'll happen. It does happen in other sports, especially sports that don't really have a time limit thing going on where there's no, the clock is stopped or the clock is running. NASCAR is one of the sports where you just kind of, there's not really a clock other than the truck series, which was cool, but I didn't want to go down that road.
We already talked about it.
But I think what you really got to do is you got to understand the rules before you go into the race. The rules now state gas man can't touch anything but the gas can. And he very cleverly, I watched it happen. This is one of the things I did get to see. One of the things I wanted to see was he very cleverly put the gas can in and put the wrench and kind of dangled it on the spoiler. They were trying to get away with something.
Yeah.
Cheaters.
Cheaters.
And they didn't own up to it.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know it was a rule until after the race.
Yeah, I figure if he drove off with it on there, obviously that's a problem. But
I think they saw enough distraction with the gas can man and enough gas cans that left pit boxes that they would just prefer that the gas man only have the one job. Take the gas can, stick it in the car. Boom, throw it back. Get the other gas can, stick it in the car. Because a lot of times if they're going to make
I guess that
wedge,
makes sense because that's a danger thing. That's a safety issue where I didn't think about that before. I was like, why don't you just let the gas man make adjustments if he's got the brains and the brawn to do it. But it does become a safety issue, doesn't it?
Well, it becomes it's a couple different issues. It's safety for one, both from a flammability perspective and the guy potentially getting dragged through the pit, as we've seen some gas men do, and the fact that if the gas can is still attached to the car and it somehow lets go and somebody else is pitting, that thing might crash into the back of another pit crew or another car. And then there's the whole where did I go? I lost my train of thought like I always do when I
Number three.
Nope,
there were just 2.
Yeah. We'll just stick with the 2 is, put the gas in the car, don't get caught on fire, don't get caught in the gas. Oh, you know what the third thing was is don't ruin a good car's day by goofing off trying to do something slick. Like, you don't want Matt Kenseth going 2 laps down because you tried to make a 1/10 of a second adjustment to how they make the wrench adjustment in the left rear window so that you can go like he was fast all day. Like that was not
right.
Like the potential, we're going to do this way. It's like have the guy block. He's not going to block on the hash mark. He's going to block 6 inches from the hash mark because most of the time the linebacker, you know what I mean?
What was the penalty? Was it supposed to be just a pass through?
Pass through.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he'd
gone a lap down.
Yeah.
And a half, and would have had every chance in the world to get the lucky dog.
He had a fast car
because he had a really fast car. That's the thing is. Yeah,
although there wasn't any cautions, but he
well, but still, but the guys on the radio always joke is if you're breaking the law, don't break the law. In this case, is if you have a fast car, just do all the things you're supposed to do. If you get black flag, just come in.
Yeah,
because if you're fast, and that was like early,
right?
Like 160.
Yeah,
I mean, there was 165 laps to go. Like that was dumb.
I think the way we found out about it, we're listening to Casey's. And you hear the spotter, Kevin Hanlon, come on and goes, they're not counting Kenseth's laps right now.
I remember that.
We're just start laughing our butt off the way he's they're not counting his laps.
Just burning gas.
Burning gas. Love
Man,
it.
it burns good.
So our other cheater, after Casey stopped.
Boatload of cheaters.
Buttload of cheaters.
But double cheater.
Double cheating here. I would say the sentimental favorite of the Daytona 500 with 2 laps to go. And certainly after Casey wasn't doing so well in Atlanta, you said, we want to switch radio, hear somebody else. I said, how about Truex? Let's listen to him for a little bit. He's looking pretty good. He was running up top 5 at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And turns out he was cheating.
Cheater.
So here's another one I didn't really know was a cheat, although I guess it makes sense if it doesn't fit in the template or doesn't fit in the specifications that they give you. But this whole roof flap deal for him has been 2 weeks in a row.
Well, they've been goofing off 2 weeks in a row with the roof flap. I can only imagine the reason is they're trying to reduce weight of parts, and what it's doing is causing them some movement or some flex or some bending or whatever you want to call it. Under stress, those parts aren't holding up because they probably want to take as much weight out of that roof flap assembly and put it, on the left rear rail or left rail so they can get better turn. Doesn't matter how you spin it, it's still cheating, and they cheated the same spot up 2 races in a row, so they're going to get in trouble for that.
Right, and they didn't just get a little – they got a little – after Daytona, it was kind of a slap on the wrist sort of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And then now it's like, dude, we told you.
Well, at Daytona, it was the thing was it looked boogered up when they were trying to do qualifying, so their qualifying was disallowed. They weren't allowed to make the qualifying lap. I don't know the particulars about how they figured it out at Atlanta. I'm assuming it happened in practice. They saw something very similar and didn't like it, or didn't pass post-practice or pre-race inspection. But it was the same area of the car 2 weeks in a row, and it's like, for sure, get that right. You don't have it happen twice in a row because it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Sure. That's all the cheaters I got for today. Did you want to bring up anybody
RCR
else?
cheated a ton.
Oh yeah, that's right. They find every RCR
affiliated team, I think, got a 10-point 10-point reduction, both owners and drivers, because they cheated up some body mounting bracket it related to the crush panels on the right rear. I'm sure it was an aero thing, it had to be an aero. It's always aero. When you're boogering up crush panels and stuff, you're trying to figure out some kind of aero gain by either getting air to come in or keeping air out. And
you remember we've seen me and you were watching a football game. I don't even remember who it was, if it was our teams or what, but they threw the flag, and the referee walks out and says, false start, entire offensive line. That's what this felt like.
This year. Yeah.
That's what it felt like was, we're going to go ahead and fine all of RCR. Like, that's
y'all
everybody.
Just straight up cheated.
Yeah.
Just straight up cheated.
So, that's what it felt like to me. Let's talk about Atlanta a little more. The tweet up, man. That was a hell of a tweet up.
Well, we went to the tweet up. We dragged our friend Travis. And it was Travis's first experience at the race with us. I believe
Travis.
It was
Travis Cochran.
Travis
right?
Cochran.
Yep.
It was his first trip back to the racetrack in over a decade. He really just lost touch with his sport after Sterling Marlin retired, which good on him for being loyal in that respect. But good on him for coming out with us. And we got to see the people that we wanted to see at the tweet up. And then a couple of bonus efforts there. We got to see Bob Pockers, who we love. We got to see Jeff Gluck. But we got to see Rutledge Wood, which is cool.
Wood, yep. And you grew up kind of in the same.
I can't believe I never
circle.
met the guy as an adolescent. He's only a year younger than me, and he went to McIntosh, and I went to Fayette County. We're both from Fayette County. He's from Peachtree City. I'm from Fayetteville. And
he hung out and talked with it because Travis knows all his friends, and they all know each
other. That's right. Travis is
cool
in with some guys that I played soccer with at Fayette County High School. Matt Doggendorf and a couple other guys, Nathan Marabella, and they all played in a band together in Athens. And so they had a great conversation. We just kind of got to watch it happen
sit there and watch our buddy talk to Rutledge Wood.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And Rutledge kind of let his hair down. Just oh wait, how about this guy? Oh yeah, is he married to Jeff Kennedy?
Oh yeah, and Waddy's out in L.A.
Yeah,
and it was his birthday today. Happy birthday, Jason Watkins. I know you'll probably never listen to the show, but all those guys that I kind of like fringe hung out with when I was like a sophomore and junior in high school.
Yeah,
it was weird to watch that conversation just sort of get reborn.
And in PETM podcast fashion, this was a 9:30 a.m. tweet up, by the way. Mm-hmm. I show up with my camo holster filled with Natty Light.
Beer.
Filled with 16-ounce
Tall
Natty
boy
Light.
Natty Light.
Yep, I'm drinking one of them. I believe you're drinking a Goose Island IPA.
Yes.
Funny story about Travis. He asked us the night before, or the day before. He said, "Hey guys, I'm working right now. I'm not going to be able to get to the store. Can y'all buy me some beer? Because we can't buy it on Sunday for 12:30, and the race is already going to be started. Not started, but we'll already be in
Pretty
there.
close enough.
Yeah, so he said, y'all mind picking me up some beer? We said, yeah, we'll do that. Don't ask your redneck friends to pick you up a beer. You're going to be drinking a 40.
That's right. That's right. He got a 40 and Miller Lite.
So we roll up to this thing. I've got my holster with 6 Natural Lights locked and loaded. You've got your Goose Island IPA, and he's just pounding a 40 among all these other folks, staring over at us. Yep, this is PETM podcast, y'all.
And he handled it as well as he could have, too, because there was a couple
beautiful.
people that kind of gave him some flack about it. They're like, are you drinking a 40? He's like, yeah.
Yeah? What are you drinking?
It's got beer in it.
Yeah,
I'm drinking it.
Yeah, you're not. Where's your drink? Where's your 40?
Don't even talk to me if you're not holding a beer. Like, I've got a 40. You have no beer.
Yeah.
Like, when it's...
It was great.
It didn't happen.
There was one point, there was probably about 10 minutes more that you and I wanted to hang out at the podcast, or at the tweet up, and he's like, Rusty, I'm all out of beer. And I'm like, well, Mr. Travis, I've got an entire selection here on my waist.
Selection of beer.
As long as you want Natty, I've got an entire, any beer you want.
You can have any beer you want as long as it's a Tall Boy Natty Light.
So that was a great tweet up. I enjoyed it. Got to talk to Bob Pockers. You got from Bob Pockers a little present.
I meant to bring it. I wish I had. I forgot. I did tweet it out. So after the tweet up was almost over, Bob walked over to us because we were both sporting Casey Kane gear, and he said, "All right, one of y'all is going to have to pick on who gets this thing." And it looked like a Scotch tube, like when you buy a bottle of Scotch and it's in the cardboard tube.
Mm-hmm.
But it said Valvoline. It was green on it, and I said, "Well, I'd like it if it."
Tall
I thought it maybe was a T-shirt, and they would just put it in a cool package.
Mm-hmm.
And then we opened it up, and it was a Casey Kane bobblehead, and I said, "Well, I'm just going to have that."
And I offered up no argument against it. I'm Sherwin's going to have a better spot in his house for this thing. So
Right. And I started to put it on the mantle. And then I remembered the B.J. Upton bobblehead. So I pulled it off the mantle, and I moved it somewhere else because I don't want that bad luck. I'm not superstitious, but I am.
Yeah. You don't want that. You don't want it to be on you at that point.
I don't want it to be on me. Yeah.
We got us some new hats, too. We're wearing them. The folks on the Periscope saw it.
That's right. Periscope saw it.
We talked about it.
Got a sweet all-black Farmers Insurance number 5 Under Armour with the trucker mesh in the back. It's
good hat.
Actually one of the best hats I have right now.
That's a good hat. And
it'll be tough to wear it in the summer because of how hot it's going to be, but I'm going to wear the hell out of it.
Well, and I was going to say,
cool.
I've never owned a black hat, and so I like it. I'm a fan of it. I got me, finally, after probably a year and a half of searching now, I've been...
Well, and you've been campaigning for it, and I've been helping you, that we needed some Bubba Wallace
Need some Bubba
apparel.
Wallace gear. My last name's Wallace. His last name Wallace, so we got to get the Wallace gear, right?
Yeah, I'm jealous of your hat.
I've tweeted to him. I've done everything, and emailed different people, and I've done a lot of stuff trying to get some Bubba Wallace gear. Well, turns out we're out there. I think we talked about it already, but we're out there, and David Reagan, I think, was signing stuff.
No, it was Regan Smith.
Oh, Regan Smith.
Yeah,
Regan.
We just kind of walked around
Regan
the new
Smith.
mall thing, and we were can't help but saying a little bit disappointed with the fact that basically only the Star Cup guys are represented in the mall thing. I get the cost savings on all the haulers, but it's a little tough to swallow.
The selection just isn't there like it used to be. I mean, even like the little stuff, like get you a little sticker. There wasn't the, Casey Kane little sticker, Casey Kane this thing, just the little tchotchkes.
No, there
and
wasn't
stuff.
all the whole women's panelist shirts and men's
thinking
panelist
yep,
shirts and
that.
hats. there used to be like 25 hats, and I get you want to reduce SKUs, but they made a very serious reduction in SKUs.
Well, and look at there was only like one stall for all of Roush. And
yeah, that was tough.
There was like 4
Roush
stalls
has
for
gotta be
Dale
like,
Jr. There was one stall for all of Roush, and it was only Sprint Cup. So similar as always. I couldn't find any Bubba stuff. You were saying though that Regan Smith was there, and
Right, he's driving for front row now.
Mhm.
So he was there. We noticed him. I just looked over and go.
Sherwin
that's
taps me
Regan
on the shoulder.
Smith.
He says, hey, dude, that's Regan Smith right there. Oh, sweet. Well, sure enough, we see a little sandwich board that says Regan Smith till 10:30, and then Bubba Wallace at 10:30 till 11. And I said, man, I got to go just shake Bubba Wallace's hand. This would be cool. So I get in line to do that. And sure enough, right before he comes out, they take this tiny-ass little apparel thing. It's got one type of shirt, and it's got one hat. And I lock eyes with that hat, and I said, that hat is mine right there.
That son of a gun is mine.
I'm buying that. I don't care if it's $100. I'm finally buying me a Bubba Wallace hat. So wearing my Bubba Wallace hat is the moral of that
It's
story.
a good-looking
and
hat.
I got him to sign it. I'm not big into signatures. I don't really care. Not that I don't care that I didn't, I cared that I met Bubba Wallace and got to shake his hand and all that. It's a nice little addition to
pull
the hat
that
there.
Roush Fenway embroidery out.
Well,
No,
that's
I'm
a
kidding.
good question. I need a pair of heavy-duty scissors. I told you the only thing about this hat, it does have Roush on it. But
Hey, I tell you what, if they put him in a cup car, I'll start rooting for Roush again.
I hear you. So, all right, man, stretch it out. Raise the arms up. Do a little. I'm not going to say touch your toes because I don't think I can get there either right now. But
there's no way.
Yeah,
There's no way.
we're going to talk politics.
Uh-oh. This is going to get ugly, y'all.
This might get ugly. All right, listen. Before y'all turn us off, we're not actually going to talk politics.
No, we're not.
We're not because I don't care who you vote for. I don't care all that mess. And
I'm-
there's nothing I
it's
don't like talking
40
about
degrees, and I don't
Yeah.
give a...
more. So you vote for who you want to. You want Hillary Clinton, you want Donald Trump, or you want Green Party or Red Party.
Barry
or-
Sanders, Ted Cruz, Mark Rubio, whoever the hell. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Bernie. Get you some Bernie if you
Get you
want it.
some Bernie.
But what we are going to talk about is the fact that the chairman, CEO, and face of NASCAR, Brian France, who has a reputation, I'll say, of not great decisions
Making bad decisions.
and quote-unquote ruining what his family put together. I'm just saying, right?
I think there's a ton of people that have been involved for 30 years that are like, what in the hell is this guy doing?
He decides. So, by the way, we need a sponsor for 2017.
And it's right. We got Sprint's rolling off, in case y'all didn't know.
Right. This won't be the Sprint Cup next year. This will be who knows what cup, right? So next year, we got a different cup. We need and we haven't announced a sponsor. We don't have a sponsor yet, right? We also have Camping World CEO Marcus Lemonis.
He's from the Middle East, right?
Lebanese-born
Yeah.
guy. He's got a show on CNBC. It's called The Prophet. Have you watched it?
I haven't.
Yeah, I have. It's a cool show. It's another one of them shows like me and you watch, like Bar and some of them other ones that he goes in and just fixes a company. But it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a mix of like Shark Tank and Bar Rescue or something, where it's a little higher brow than Bar Rescue, but
Bar Rescues doesn't set the bar very high.
the
Just saying,
quote-unquote bar.
it's on spike.
So last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was, he had told Brian France, if you're going to hold this thing at the Trump casino, nobody from Camping World's coming because Trump had just said
I'm not
something that
any of
Marcus
my-
Lemonis thought was kind of disparaging to immigrants. And so they pulled out of that. Well, here we are 1 year or 2 years later or whatever. Brian France says publicly out here in Valdosta, Georgia, if you don't know where Valdosta is, it's as far as you can get from where I'm standing and still be in the state of Georgia.
That is 100% correct, and I lived there.
Yep.
So I can offer the perspective of having...
Pretty much North Florida from right there.
It's North Florida.
So
the only reason why you would even entertain the idea of being down there is that you're closest to what I believe is the largest Air Force base in the fleet. Like in terms of number of people that work there, Moody Air Force Base.
Moody.
Right outside of Valdosta. It's a huge base. Half the town, it sounds like you're in Yankee land because most people aren't from Valdosta that live in Valdosta.
So, amidst all this, we have Brian France and a few drivers. Now, in every sport, in every series, you're going to find the few people who are supporting a candidate for one reason or another, and they announce it on Twitter, they announce it with the candidate. Fine, do that. That's your thing. It's we already said earlier on the podcast.
Well, David Reagan's done it before, and it was never a big deal. Didn't garner this much interest at all.
Yeah, this wouldn't have been a big deal. Ryan Newman, Chase Elliott, and Bill Elliott, fine. Whatever you want to say there, fine. But Brian France, I don't care if this is a personal decision, man. You're the face of NASCAR.
Well, some of the dumbest crap I saw on Twitter was, it's his American right to align with a particular candidate. You're exactly right. But one thing that's been proven over and over and over in public relations is it doesn't matter what your American right is. It matters what's the impact of your decision. And if this isn't a positive impact on NASCAR, why in the hell would you ever take this step?
You said it before. What did he have to gain personally or through the company or whatever? Oh, by the way, the first thing Trump says is, I've got the support of NASCAR. He said it on Twitter.
Right.
And then NASCAR, the board, said, like, in lowercase letters, the view of Brian France is it's his personal view. It's not,
well,
it's
I
not
wish
our
I
view.
had a...
Now, who do you think is going to hear what, right? Here's Trump saying, I've got the support of NASCAR, and here's the NASCAR board being like, that wasn't safe for a video, but
it is.
Or for radio, it's fine. So NASCAR board just being rolling over on it, and so what it means is that he's quote unquote got the support of NASCAR at this point. So we've backed somebody.
Well, I wish I had written down the morons that had thrown out it's his American right. It's very Dave Moody. Not to put too fine a word or a name upon it, but it matters a ton what Brian France does. And what he says is NASCAR, because he only speaks often enough for people to know that he is the face of NASCAR.
Exactly.
And that's the problem, is like, if Brian France was talking all the time and then said, okay, personally, I'm going to separate myself from NASCAR and I'm going to support a particular candidate, that would probably work. But the fact that he only speaks 2 or 3 times a year, and when he does, he tries to pretend that he is the god of NASCAR, and as its owner and CEO, he kind of is, but because he chooses to live in recluse for most of the year, when he does something like this, it matters. It's a big deal, and it means NASCAR is hitched to his wagon. I mean, it doesn't mean his NASCAR is hitched to his wagon. NASCAR is hitched to his wagon.
Right. The way I thought about it was, I can't imagine any PR rep had anything to do with this. There was no PR rep that was like, oh, yeah, this is a good idea.
Has
Brian,
Arthur Blank aligned with a candidate?
No. Why would he? Why would you say, hey, half of y'all, I don't really care for your opinion?
Because that's what it ought to be, right?
Why would he do that?
If we're truly a two-party
you don't hear
system,
Roger Goodell making an announcement.
Roger Goodell, could you imagine what would happen
if
he aligned with a particular candidate?
Either side. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It would be an explosion of hate speech.
And here we have to deal with Brian France doing it somehow? Why do we have to deal with that? I don't. It felt to me, so what I was trying to get at, it felt to me like, imagine this scenario. I've played this out in my head. That Brian France is sitting there and he tells his PR rep, I want to come out and say that I totally support Donald Trump. And his PR rep goes, no, bad dog. You cannot do that.
Slaps him
and
on
he
the
goes,
nose.
oh, crap. All right. I won't say anything. And he comes out later and says, can I do it now? And they're like, no, you can't do it now. You can't do it ever. You can't do it. And what happens? He sneaks out
like
of the
the
house.
Ron White joke with the dog and the chicken.
Yeah, he sneaks out of the house. Dog sneaks out of the house. And he gets out there and he gets into Valdosta, Georgia, and he goes, I'm going to do it. And he jumps up on stage and says, hey, look what I did. I support this guy.
I killed the chicken.
Right, I killed the chicken. It's like, no! What have you done? So it's baffling is the word to me. Baffling is, and you said it the best, so props to you on this. which was what on earth did he have to gain to align with somebody?
How does this positively impact NASCAR? Because if it doesn't have a positive impact on NASCAR, you missed.
Mm-hmm.
You swung and you missed. And I can't imagine it has a positive impact because you and I are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about it very favorably. And it doesn't matter. Look, there are going to be people that disagree with our personal politics, which is why we don't display those on this podcast.
Well, right.
It's about being a
10
fan
years ago,
of
me and
the
you almost got in fistfights on politics.
for sure.
Back when we cared.
And ironically, we've come together on that.
Right. Now we agree more than we ever did.
And we're not going to discuss that on this podcast because that's not the point of this podcast.
Right.
It's not about politics. Just like I try to remove myself from all discussions on Twitter about politics, and I even mute people or block them when they start to get to a place that I don't want to be in, or I don't think the podcast channel wants to be in. The thing is, when you make a bad decision, it doesn't matter what arena you're playing in. When you make a bad decision, you have to own that.
Mm-hmm.
And NASCAR has to hold Brian France accountable for making a really bad decision.
I agree with that. I agree with that fully. And where was I? I don't know. You said a great point there, and I lost my train of thought.
No, it's just what it is it's dude, you cannot do this right now. This is not the time and the place for this. There was a time.
We've got some stuff.
People will bring. Oh well, the Francis have a history of aligning with Republican candidates. Ronald Reagan, for one. Yeah, that was a different time. It was a different place. It was a different set of circumstances. And
they brought him on into a race.
The 1980s is not now.
Right.
Like you're running ad campaigns to try to get progressive millennial fans to get involved in this sport, and then you align with Donald Trump. Like you have just said the exact opposite thing. You spent 5 weeks spending millions of dollars marketing to an audience that you just shut out. Mm-hmm. Like that's stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the drive for diversity, and I won't say, and all I mean by that.
What does Daniel Suarez have to say about this?
Right. What
He's a Mexican.
Yeah.
I mean,
for real. Like that. That's
like an actual Mexican.
He's a Mexican. I don't know. Well, he's got a big bill coming for a big old wall he's got to build, evidently.
Yeah, I mean, is Daniel going to help him build it? Like, where are we going to go? I should probably back off now before I say something to get us in trouble. But, like, I'm upset about it. I'm excited. Excited.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
This is bad.
Yep. So, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to say about it other than, you know what? Here's what I was going to say before was that I don't like that the media seems to be giving a pass for the sole reason that they don't want to mix politics and sports. And I don't blame them for that. So the ESPN guys, they can't talk about this. Why can't they talk about it? Well, they're tied into they can't lose half their audience, if you will. You know, they can't risk disparaging this and having people come after them and say, blah blah blah, I'm not watching you anymore, or certain ties they're just not allowed to talk about certain things. I think we saw that with I'm not going to name names, actually. We saw that with one of the reporters who said, I can't talk politics on this. That's just part of my thing. I'm not allowed to talk politics. So nobody's breaching the subject, and I think that's a bummer that nobody else can come out and say, hey, you and I, we're independent. We may go down to 0 followers tomorrow. We're going to do a podcast again next week.
I don't care if we go to 0, but you're right. You're right. And in the public media, those people certainly aren't allowed. The people that you and I would both most want to speak about it can't do it because A, their network is no longer like directly affiliated with the sport, and B, their network tells them these are arenas we don't want to play in because we just don't want the backlash. We don't want the amount of network traffic. We just don't want it. We want our network to be about sports only. And this feels like it crosses over. But what I'm curious to see is, do the news media outlets that will remain nameless, that are all headless horsemen, it would seem like, will they pick this up? And if they don't, where does that NASCAR calibrate themselves if the news media, the news entertainment companies, if they don't pick this up as a topic, where does NASCAR calibrate themselves in terms of what their like national attention is?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe NASCAR's not big enough for this to matter. Maybe I'm blowing it out of the water, and maybe I'm whatever. But I just
no, you should blow it
Just
out
so
of the water
upset.
because that's what we do here.
oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
Like,
But it's just upsetting. And I told you, I even texted you the next day. I said, man, and I've done this on the podcast. I've said, well, I sat on it for a day, and then I liked it. Caution clock. After I sat on it for a
shot
night,
clock.
I came back and I said, you know what? Let me deal with this. I'm okay with this. And then we saw it happen, and it's fine. I texted you. I said, man, I've sat on this a day, and I'm more pissed off today.
That's right. You did.
So-
You absolutely did. And I don't blame you a bit because there's so many implications to doing it that are not like it was obviously not well researched in terms of PR, how you would handle this and what the potential ramifications are, because in general, NASCAR is looked at as a sport where people aren't in touch. They're just, they're watching on Fox broadcast, and as soon as they lose broadcast, they don't even watch anymore. Well, that's not true anymore. They're watching on their computers. They're watching on their phones. They're paying attention to everything because they have access. They have Facebook. They have Twitter. They have smartphones. They're dialed into the internet, and you can't behave like they're not anymore. And this seemed like to me was behavior like we were in 1988, where no one can figure out what happened.
Exactly. Or like you said, everybody, it's still a southeastern sport, and it's okay to do something like that and to support a Reagan or something. I wouldn't be arguing against him at that point. Maybe that's a good move in the 80s. But look at somebody like me. I work in a high-tech company, man. There's exactly one, maybe two NASCAR fans in my office. I got to go back to my office and with my tail between my legs, and they say, ha-ha, all the stereotypes that we had about you and your sport, they're all right now. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than that's Brian France, and he has a history and a reputation for doing stuff like this. So
I have run into the same problem, and it's not just, and some of it's from NASCAR fans, and some of it's not. It's how do you feel about this? And I'm like, well, I really don't like it because I have a brain and I understand
and I have to deal with
this is
it.
not that good of a deal. Like, this is not a great decision. And so but you do have to receive that feedback from your friends. It's like, hey, what are y'all doing over there? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, y'all, if you made it this far into the podcast, we probably owe you $1 or something. So appreciate you listening. I hope that we probably didn't bring a whole lot to the table other than just screaming and yelling. But some people need to say this. This needs to get out there even more and more. And I think Twitter helped that happen with a lot of the fans. I was reading on some of the Reddit topics just because I got curious about it, and Reddit blew up with this. I mean, there's nobody who has a voice anywhere who's saying, oh, great move, Brian. Other than some folks saying, well, he's got a choice to do his own, and we already addressed that. So,
hey, Brian France, you don't need to confirm to the public that you're stupid because we already know.
So with that, let's announce the official PETM presidential endorsement. How about that? Why not?
All right.
I say official PETM without having conferred with you whatsoever, but I think you're going to agree with me. I have selected our presidential endorsement to go fully. All of our funds that we're making right now, zero, are going straight to Ward Burton for president 2016. What do you think?
I can get behind Ward Burton.
I
can support Ward Burton. Ward Burton.
Yeah,
I'm gonna write you in, Bubba.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I might write in Ward Burton on my vote. So
actually, I'm writing in you, by the way.
Oh man, I'm not old enough yet. Don't tell anybody.
Oh crap!
But, I'm writing in your ass in.
I got to write in me, or I'm writing in Clark. One of the
Sherwin for president.
Not Ed, but one of our buddies, Mike. Hell, I'm writing Ed Clark.
Ed, you want in? maybe nobody else will vote.
Damn.
Let's talk about Vegas. We've been to Vegas.
We did go to Vegas.
We had a blast in Vegas. My parents were living there at the time. We posted up at their house. We watched a nationwide race from the Bellagio sports book.
We missed the window by a minute and a half. I was going to bet on Carl Edwards to win. I think it was 4 or 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we missed the window by, like, literally, I'm, like, trying to hand a $20 bill, and they shut the window.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went over to the bar and played video blackjack, and Carl Edwards won the race.
And we were playing video blackjack at a quarter a pop, and we'd only play a hand every minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Oh, the bartender was honest, like, look, if y'all got to play, like, $2 a hand, and you got to do it like nonstop. But when he would walk away, and we'd be like, I'm just going to let it sit a minute, and then like play a quarter, and then he'd walk over to you like hit $1.
But he was from McDonough.
He was from McDonough, Georgia,
and he was a race fan. He was talking to us and everything. We about drank that place out of Budweiser.
Pretty sure they didn't have any Budweiser.
We had a
but
blast.
I remember I went to go collect my ticket from the window because I actually won money. And I crossed paths with Danny DeVito, all right? And I will tell you all something. I'm not a tall man. I'm 5'10" or 5'11" on a good day. I walked by Danny DeVito, and he looked like a toddler who was 60 years old.
He's about this big.
He is 4'11" on the best day of his life.
In some shoes.
Dude is short.
In some shoes. So we've had some fun in Vegas. Big announcement for Vegas. Vickers back in the car, which I thought was interesting. That they didn't run Vickers in Atlanta, but they're going to run him in Vegas. I don't know. They're just going
really
back and
understand
forth. Well,
that.
We talked about it.
I think what they wanted to do, based on Vickers' commentary on Nate's podcast, the new NBC NASCAR podcast that they did episode 5, which was good with Vickers. It kind of sounded like they were worried that Vickers' schedule might get too hectic. In terms of
for
like,
the health stuff?
Like the health side of things, like
it's a bummer they
don't
have to think
do
about
every
it,
race. Maybe we'll just sort of scatter them around. It sounded like they really wanted to have Vickers in the car most of the time, but they don't want to have him in every race.
Yeah.
And they're really unsure of when Smoke is going to come back.
Mm-hmm. Hamlin, he kind of wrecked his first string car there.
Yeah, he did. He wrecked
No
the
bueno,
starting
Carlos.
car. He wrecked
says.
the starting car in the test this afternoon. And so I guess, for his team, you hope that 2 Deep is looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's going to be more storylines as we get through it. But let's go ahead and do our picks, man.
Oh, man. Do I have to go first? Or you? I think I get to go first, right? I finished 4th?
Yeah, because you finished 4th. There's our guy telling us to start engines. Oh, by the way,
I talked all up in his thing. I love his call to fire.
No, it's all good. You remember the call to fire at Atlanta for the
good.
Cup race? It was fantastic. I don't remember who it was. I got to go back and look it up.
Yeah, we got to go back and get it.
Great call to fire after one of the worst anthems I think I've ever heard.
I was standing in line with Travis, but I did hear the call to fire. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a rough anthem. But and she was pausing on the wrong syllables, like, and the home of the brave. And you're like, what the hell are you doing?
Did anybody teach you how to sing this song?
Yeah, it's a pretty old song. Anyway, so we're picking. I've already burnt my pick, so I'll just, no, you get to go first. So go for it, since nobody on the podcast knew I burnt my pick.
I don't want to, sound like I'm on the repeater. Like the repeater, you get distracted, but I'm going with Kurt Busch. Man.
Going with Kurt. 3 weeks in a row, calling Kurt on something. You called him for the championship right before Daytona. You called him for the Atlanta race. You're calling him for the hometown
he finished 4th
race.
Started on the pole at Atlanta by some interesting circumstances.
Yep.
He was going to start on the front row anyway, but I don't know that he's won a home yet, and he's super fast. So let's do it.
Well, my pick was his bro and other hometown hero, Mr. Kyle. I kind of
that was the only other guy I was considering picking.
Right, I kind of burned it earlier, so apologies if that was yours. But
it's going to be Jimmy, by the way.
It's going to be Jimmy. And a lot of that was we didn't talk about it, but a lot of that was that strategy that Chad Knaus was doing, and like you said, them tire fall off and all that, and getting 3 seconds on a run. Shoot, he decided to just
he bet on that late caution.
Yeah, pit with the half a run and see what happens, because we're not going to win otherwise. Other than if we get up in the same, other than exactly what happened, we weren't going to win.
Exactly.
It
happened.
It happened. I felt a little bit bad for him when the Newman caution came out. that, I like the strategy part of this, but now he's screwed. But no, he went. I mean, everything worked out. He still had a good car.
And he tied someone very important on the all-time list.
He did do that, and I think that POs a lot of people because they know he's going to win again. And so be it. I like seeing greatness. I like seeing stuff like that. And, every with the amount of competition that we have nowadays, I think it's the most impressive that he's able to do that. Dare I say, I'm not sure that Dale Earnhardt would have had as many wins in the same era. Did I just say that? Am I allowed to say that?
No, I don't think so. I think...
Wait, you don't think I'm allowed to say it? Or you don't think that would happen?
Dale Earnhardt would have not won as many races if he started his career when Jimmy Johnson did.
Oh, man. If we didn't turn everybody off with our politics, now we're going to turn them off with that.
Well, how many wins did Jeff Gordon take away from Dale Earnhardt? I mean, if you just look at
It's a good question.
I mean, Jeff won. Well, we already chronicled this. We did this on a Holy Bleep,
yes.
Our very first Holy Bleep.
Yep.
That he won 45 races in a 3-year span or some or 5-year span, some astronomical amount of races.
Yep.
And Earnhardt was racing during all of those years. So, and then Jimmy had to turn around and race Tony and Jeff.
Yep.
And the next biggest winners, I believe, are Junior and Kenseth. And he still beat them 76 times in the same time frame.
Unbelievable. Let's start closing it out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So that means
we got
the
Jelly Bean 500 over here.
It's a Jelly Bean closeout challenge.
Yeah.
You know we got to
Jelly
it,
Bean closeout challenge.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm a huge fan.
Here we go.
Throw them in there. These are them beer jelly beans.
Do we have any shout out? How about what's that sponsor one? At sponsor drivers?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I thought
sponsor drivers.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like you're eating nothing.
No. And they asked me to shout out, and I just can't remember the thing.
I think it's
got
at sponsor _drivers. I mean, it's more jelly bean.
Yeah. Racing is simulation. Obviously, Kenny Smith, with what he's doing, at USMC Kenny SGT, Sergeant Marine Corps. I want to shout out to him. Shout out to Jason V1. We talked a little Formula One, Jason Valadares.
Oh, cool.
On podcast.
GV.
Got the Chewy deal here. The right front tire. I don't know if you ended up following on the podcast or the Periscope or not.
We blamed you for a few things this weekend.
Matt Bishop, great to see you.
Real good seeing you. Sorry we missed you, Matt Weaver.
Weaver, get your ass healthy, man. That's bullshit. Whoop.
I'm going to have to bleep that one out.
Might have to bleep that. I think that still falls into the okay territory, but we only did it the one time. But
all right, y'all. Visit us on the website, PETMpodcast.com. I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm at Pregame Ian G.
We'll talk to y'all next time.